My guest is Ricky Van Shelton, and Ricky is new. Although he is new, he's already had a major hit record. I'm delighted to have him as our guest. Ricky, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Ralph. I'm glad to be here.
Let's get a few facts and figures on you for the folks that are just getting to know you.
And let's get them right.
All right. Where are you from?
I'm from Grit, Virginia, and that's up near Roanoke. It's 40 miles east of Roanoke, Virginia.
Grit, G-R-I-T?
G-R-I-T.
How big is Grit?
I guess it's about 300 people. It's not a town. It's just a little rural community.
All right. You married?
Yes, I've been married for a year and a half.
Her name?
Betty.
Children yet?
No kids.
Okay.
Just 13 guitars and 2 dogs.
What are your dogs' names?
Lucky and Zeus.
Because I'm always interested. People name their dogs strange things sometimes. I'm always interested in that.
Well, you know, I had back when I was in Virginia, I had a black lab and a white lab, and so I named the black one Pete, and I named the white one Repeat.
I used to know a guy who had 2 cats. He named them AM and FM.
Yeah, well.
What'd you do back in Grit? Was there much opportunity there?
No, there's no opportunity there. For music, now there was opportunity to make a living.
You've done a lot of things, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done a lot of different things, like pipe fitting. I did pipe fitting and plumbing. Well, that was the longest job I had. I did it for 10 years. I sold cars for a couple of years, managed an appliance store.
What's a pipe fitter do?
You build steam plants usually, you know, or water, carry steam or water or air.
Now what do you actually do though?
Well, I fit pipe in. I use a welding torch. A cutting torch and a welder, and I fit the 90s and the 45s. I make the pipe go up a wall and over top of it. And
were you an apprentice?
No, I was a journeyman.
Does that mean you had your card?
Well, no, I didn't have a card because I wasn't in the union. We didn't have no union jobs where I come from.
Did you have to serve an apprenticeship?
Oh, yeah. I started out just as a helper, you know, and just worked my way up to it.
Did you ever I've always thought people that worked with torches and cutting tools ran some risk, even though they might be expert at it. Did you ever get hurt?
Oh, yeah. I got my nose broke working in a boiler room and hurt my back. Pulled my fingers loose from my knuckles one time, from my hand, picking up too heavy a piece of pipe. So you get hurt real easy, get burned. Steam will kill you, you know. That's what moves battleships. So it is a dangerous job, but you got to be good at math to figure all your angles and everything.
Ricky, let's talk about your music for a moment. So far, what's happened to you? Let's start out with the very first record.
Well, the first record was Wild Eyed Dream, which is the name of my album. That went to 24 on the chart. And my second record was Crime of Passion, and that broke at top 10. That stopped at number 7 in the nation on Billboard. And that really got the ball rolling for me. It gave me a little recognition. And then my third record was Somebody Lied, and that made it into number 1. And it was 16 weeks before it made it to number 1, so that was good, you know.
Well, I'm glad that the people that had faith in it hung on until it got there.
Really, you know, strange. I really didn't think it was going to go because it was on the chart so long. And I didn't have all of the stations, all the reporting stations. 2 of them said it was 2 countries, so I didn't think it was going to make number 1, but it finally did.
When did Wild Eyed Dream come out?
The record came out in November of '86. The album was released in February of '87.
So you've gone a year now without an album.
Mm-hmm.
I assume since you've had so much success, you're working on album number 2.
I certainly am. I've already cut 12 songs for it, and I'm going back in March and cut 5 or 6 more tunes. 3 of the tunes are original tunes of mine. And then me and Steve Buckingham, my producer, will sit down with CBS and we'll decide which is the best cuts to go on the album. And as far as I know, the release date will be around the 1st of July, because after my current single, Life Turned It That Way, I'm going to have a 5th single off of this album.
You know what it is?
Well, it's up for grabs. I want it to be Ultimately Fine, and I think CBS might want it to be Don't We All Have the Right. So it's between those 2.
Don't We All Have the Right been out before?
That's an old Roger Miller tune. I never have heard his version of it, but he wrote the song.
Well, he'll be happy to hear that. I worked with Roger the other day. and he misses Nashville. He lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Oh, you did Merle Haggard's Working Man's Blues?
Mm-hmm. That's on there.
Your current single, have you ever heard Mel Tillis sing Life Turned Her That Way?
I never have.
Or Jimmy Dickens?
I've heard his version, but not Tillis.
That's a country song that's been lying around here for a long time.
It sure
Why
has.
did you pick it?
Well, we was looking for a real good ballad, and Steve Buckingham, my producer, and Steve Gibson, the lead musician on the sessions that we do, they thought of this tune, and so we went and got it, and it was in 3/4 timing. You know, the version was 3/4, and we changed it around to a 4/4 timing song, and it come out just great.
Will your new album feature some old songs like the old songs you put in your first one, Life Turned Her That Way,
Yeah.
Working Man's Blues?
Yes, it will. We've got some real good original tunes. We got some new songs from some great writers in town, and we also went back and we found some real old classics that people have forgotten all about.
You want to tell us about it, or
I better not do that.
you're afraid somebody else will run out and record them?
That's right. I'll tell you after we get off the air.
Oh, okay. All right. Ricky, I suppose as you go through life, people who haven't done it will wonder how you did it. And I suppose the most often asked question of entertainers is, how did you get your break?
Well, I met the right people. I met Jerry Thompson, which is a
Jerry Thompson is a Nashville newspaper writer
right.
of human interest stories, and he's very good. And, well, you go ahead.
Well, Jerry has nothing to do with the music business, but he happened to know Rick Blackburn, which was the chief of the Nashville office of CBS. And through them knowing each other, Jerry and I became friends, and I used to carry my guitar up to his house, and we would cook out and have a barbecue, and I'd play and sing all night long, and Jerry became a believer in me, and so he decided to help me out by contacting Blackburn, which he did, and we carried a real bad demo tape that I had made at my house. Because I played all the instruments, sang all the parts, and it had more hiss in it than it had music. But Blackburn heard something in it that he wanted to hear me live, so we set up a showcase at the Stockyard here in Nashville, and Blackburn came, brought Steve Buckingham, which is the CBS staff producer, and I did a 30-minute set, and I walked over to him when I got through, and I said, well, that's it. It don't get no better than this. And he says, well, I'm going to put you in the studio. Then he said, by the way, do you have a credit card? Which was just a bad joke of his. And that's how it happened.
So he signed you.
He signed me that night, yeah.
Are you adjusting now? See, I met Ricky when he first came over here. He was fresh off the boat, as I say, no matter where you come from. And he was on Nashville Now with us. And it just occurred to me that there's a lot of adjusting to life in Music City and life in the big leagues of country music. And that's where you are now.
Yeah.
It's a lot different than the way it used to be.
It's a lot different from playing the Moose Clubs where I come from, and but I'm totally adjusted. It's just the only hard thing I've found is I don't have any spare time for anything, kind of like yourself, Ralph. I'm always doing something, but I'm thankful.
I'm talking to Ricky Van Shelton. And the first time I ever met him, he's a very handsome fella. And I thought to myself, and I think I stated this a couple of times on Nashville Now, that you look to me like CBS's answer to George Strait, who records for MCA. Has CBS ever said anything like that to you?
Well, yes and no. Blackburn will make little comments like, "You better watch out, Randy Travis. You better watch out, George Strait."
We're coming after you.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your background, how you grew up. How big is your family?
Well, I got 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and all of them are older. I'm the youngest in the family, because my mother and father, and all of them are back in Grit, in Virginia. I was raised in a gospel music family. My mom and daddy are real religious people. They go to a Pentecostal Holiness church, and if you know anything about the Pentecostal people, it's a whole lot of foot-stomping music in that church. It's more music than it is preaching. So I was brought up in that. Every Sunday morning I went to church, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night at prayer meeting, and every revival, 50 miles in 4 directions, we was at church. And so when I was 3 or 4 years old, I was singing every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, and every revival, singing a gospel song. And I grew up in front of people singing, and that's where I developed this love for music, And I've stuck with it ever since.
Did you ever consider being a gospel singer?
No, I never did. I didn't know it was any kind of music but gospel music until I got in probably the second or third grade, and I heard other kids singing songs I didn't know, because around my house, it was either gospel music or nothing at all. But I never considered it. I just love music, I was always beating on the guitar and singing while the other kids were playing ball. I was singing. But when I fell in love with country music when I was 13 or 14 years old, I knew where I wanted to be.
Does your family, being strict fundamentalist in their religious outlook, do they have any problem with you singing, drinking, cheating, or certain country songs that might fly in the face of their religious feelings?
No, they have no problem. The only concerns my parents had were, you hear a lot of stories about the music industry with drugs and stuff like that, and I proved to them that it ain't that way. It's just a few that make it seem like it's that way.
Well, it's like the chicken that does all the cackling. They're the ones that get the attention.
That's right, and I haven't run across it nowhere. I've been on the road for a year now, and if it's out there, it's hidden. It's not like people think it is. And so I proved to Mom and Daddy that it's not that way. So they're very satisfied with me, and they come to see me in concert when they can, and they're real happy.
I was just wondering what the people on the street, what your family, what they thought about people being in country music, those stars they'd heard about. Do they think that we're all going to hell, or everybody's on drugs, or do they think it is made up of bad people, nice people, or what do they think?
Well, yeah, I think most people that I've run across think that all the stars, if you got a hit song, then you're rich, and a lot of them, like Mom and Daddy, thought it was a lot of drinking and a lot of drugs involved, and they were concerned about that. But most people just think that all the stars and the music people are just rich. And
one hit record, and you should be covered in diamonds and driving big cars, etc., right?
Right, the stardom comes way before the money. There's a time lapse there,
Yes.
It really is.
Number one, if you have a hit record, you don't get your money for at least, 6 months from the record company. If you write a hit song, I think you could be a year away from collecting it because of the way they tabulate record sales and plays on the radio, for which you get paid. So you're right. That's a very interesting way to put it. The fame comes before the money.
Oh, it does.
What you're saying is you really need some sort of nest egg to be able to make it. In order for you to go on the road and kind of make some money off of your hit record, you got to have operating capital.
Exactly. If it hadn't been for my wife working, it'd been real hard for me.
Did you have to go out and borrow money?
Well, I had to get an advance from CBS, and because when you first start out, even with hit records, you first start out, the bookings you get on the road, they don't cover expenses, much less pay anything.
Because you're not making that much.
No, because they can get anybody to do a show. For example, I'm opening for Alabama now. I don't get paid a lot of money to open for Alabama. If I complain to them, it's 1 million people that they could get to open for Alabama. So they ain't got to pay you when you first start out. And so you got to have some money or some income
They
coming
do
from somewhere.
pay you. They just don't pay you a lot.
Right, but that's the way anybody does,
But working for Alabama gives you a lot of exposure.
Exactly, so it's worth its weight in gold.
Because a lot of people come to see Alabama, and they'll have to watch you first.
Yeah, well, that's right. We're averaging about 8,000 people a night right now. So that's a lot of people to reach per night.
How do you travel?
I travel in a bus. I got real fortunate when my album was released and Crime and Passion came out. We instantly had a lot of offers, and it was looking real good. So CBS took a chance on me, and they gave me an advance to lease a bus. So I've had a bus ever since I started.
Yeah, you don't have to buy one.
Right, you can lease them. You lease the bus per day, or you can lease it on a long-term basis, and you also can lease a driver. And that's what I do. I lease a bus and I lease a driver.
What does that cost?
It costs around $400 a day, less fuel.
Oh, you have to buy the diesel.
Oh, yeah, and that's expensive.
Well, I know. It's
4 miles a gallon,
Do you have a band?
Yes, I have a band.
You have to pay them?
I have to pay them a salary per show, and I have to pay them a per diem. to eat on a day. You
And
know.
don't you pay their motel?
Motel room. I have to pay union dues. I got a manager. I got a road manager to pay and a manager to pay, and I got a business manager to pay. I deal with a lawyer, and he don't come cheap neither.
You got a publicist?
A publicist, yeah, Network Inc.'s my publicist.
Yeah, it's.
So it's.
I can sit here and tell you haven't made any money yet.
No, I haven't. You know what? I had a real good '87, Ralph. I made a lot of money for first year in '87, and after it was all over, I pocketed about $2,006. You know? It was about $300,000 I made last year, and I cleared $2,006.
Boy, that's terrible. You don't owe Uncle Sam anything, do you?
No, I don't owe him a dime. They probably owe me something.
You made $300,000 on the road,
Just about.
and netted $2,000.
$6. We went over the books the other day.
I'd say your expenses are a little high.
It costs to stay on the road. I mean, you got that bus out there and all those people, and I've had to add a sound man too, so it's not cheap at all.
Oh, I can tell.
It cost me about $4,000 a day to do a show, to go do it before I can make anything, you know. So.
And then if you become Randy Travis, his new bus costs $400,000.
That's right.
It doesn't get any cheaper.
No, you can make money, you know. You can't take it wrong, but we just stating the fact that it takes a whole lot to make it.
So now people are saying, well, why would you want to get down there and be a star if you can't make any money? Well, ultimately you can.
Right.
You just have to have a lot of hit records, and your price on the road has to go up.
Right. It has to go up a lot. But, Ralph, in '88, I got a lot of good bookings coming up in '88.
Ricky, where are you working in '88?
I'm working all over the country.
Are you doing the whole year fronting for Alabama?
No, I just I took the first 3 months of the year. I couldn't afford to give them any more than that.
So now, after you leave the Alabama show, do you know your schedule after that?
Not date by date. I know I'll be in Texas all of April, but the rest of the year I'll just be all over the country.
Are people now getting to know who Ricky Van Shelton is?
Oh yeah. I wear a baseball cap when I'm not doing something in the music business. Like today, I got on my cowboy hat. But when I go out to a grocery store or something, I wear a baseball hat, and I'm getting recognized now with a baseball hat on. So.
How about at the shows? You can, if you have any contact with your audience, do you sign autographs?
Yes.
Do they come up and name your songs?
Oh, yeah.
They know your songs?
Yes, yeah.
Do they go into, when you sing Somebody Lied or Crime of Passion, do they immediately start applauding?
Yeah, they do. They really do. I've got a dozen songs that I do in my road show that when I start, place just goes up. And when I do Somebody Lied, the end of it where it says, Lord, I bet somebody, there's a little pause, and I say lied. Half the time I'll get off track because the whole crowd, they trying to come in too early.
Oh, you mean they jumped the line on
They
you?
jump the gun on lies, and it's real funny sometimes. So they know my songs.
What do they say to you?
Oh, they say all kinds of things to me. The most asked questions I get is, are you married, and where do you live? Where do you come from? Why do you talk that way?
Do they think you have a funny accent?
Oh yeah, I get harassed all the time.
You have something akin to what people, I suppose, call the Piedmont accent.
Yeah, I guess.
When you meet these wild-eyed country music fans, do they want to kiss you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've been attacked a couple of times on the stage.
On stage?
Oh yeah. Both times in Texas, though, because Texas fans, they're great fans.
I know they're great fans.
They really get into the music. But there was 2 times they jumped up on the stage and grabbed me, And one night, I forget what town I was in and what club, but I was in this club in Texas, and after I got through, I was going to sign autographs, and I turned around, put my guitar in the stand. And when I turned back around to go off stage, about 10 girls jumped up and grabbed me, and they just snatched me off of the stage, picked me up, and went running across the dance floor with me, And I was saying, hey, somebody help me, because I thought this would carry me outside, but they carried me and set me down at the table. They just wanted me to get them in and sign autographs fast. But
I guess that's one way to do it. Just go pick up the guy and bring him over to your table.
They did. They just scooted me right on over.
Ricky, I am really curious about this. And here again, it's a matter of perspective. I've lived in Nashville all my life, or most of it. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if Nashville, its music industry, now that you've gotten to know a lot of folks, was anything like you imagined.
The music part is, but I didn't never dream about all the what goes on behind the job. You know, all the politics that goes on, and all the different people I have to deal with. You know, I just dreamed. My dream of being a star was bright lights, a guitar, a crowd, and a bus.
You didn't think about the administrative part of the business.
And believe me, it's a 24-hour job. You know, and it's just so much to do. So
Yeah, and I must say too that we have some very good businessmen who sing country music. Conway Twitty's a good example. He's a good businessman.
you got to be these days.
You've got to be to hang on to your money.
That's right, because there's so many things can happen. You know.
You glad you made this decision?
Oh yes, I wouldn't change it for nothing.
Have they put up a sign in Grit yet?
Yes, they did.
Huh?
They sure did.
What?
I went home for Christmas, and when you go across the river from Alta Vista, head into Grit, there's this big curve and a long hill called Jaybird Hill. Well, right in the middle of that curve, I was going around the curve, and Betty said, "Pull over." So pull off there, and I said, "What for?" And she said, "Just pull over right here." And said, "Look over yonder." So 75, 100 yards away at the crest of a hill, right up at the foot of the pines, there was this sign that said, "Welcome to Grit, Virginia, home of Ricky Van Shelton."
That's fantastic. Is Ricky Van Shelton your real name?
Yes, it is. Van is my middle name.
So Shelton is the last name, not
Shelton.
as opposed to Van Shelton.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Is it Richard Van Shelton?
That's it. You're the first person that has asked me that.
So Richard is on your birth certificate.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite country singers?
Well, Raph, that's a hard question to me because I'm one of these people who don't have a favorite. I like George Jones, of course.
Everybody likes George Jones.
Yeah, and when I toured up through California with him, that was a highlight of my life. I like Randy Travis. I like them all. I've been influenced by styles of music, not different artists.
Now, I guess the point of the question was to see what you considered your era.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, George Jones transcends all eras. Ricky, thank you.
My pleasure, Ralph.
I hope we get to know each other better, and I'll look forward to working some more shows with you.
I definitely look forward to it.